What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Colby, also known as Patriots Global, along here with my co-host Jace from the Patriots Drive. And today we are coming back at you guys again with the second edition of the Patriots Roundtable here on the AFC East Roundtable, powered by Roundtable Sports, to bring you the latest news involving the New England Patriots. This is your one-stop shop for everything involving the New England Patriots. This is going to be our second episode, so still a pretty new series, pretty fresh here. But again, this is going to be your one-stop shop every single Friday, somewhere between 8 to 9 p.m. Eastern every single week. But Jace, man, we took off last week. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you, man? I mean, got a couple news still, a couple things to talk about with the Patriots, but yeah, really dead period. But no, I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm good, man. You know, like you said, it's really just a dead period of time. There's not too much to talk about. And this is kind of what me and Richie and TD, this is what we talked about just a couple of days ago when we did our Wednesday show here on the AFC East Roundtable, was you're really just digging in and you're over analyzing every last little bit of news, because right now that's all you have. That is the closest thing that we have for football until training camp comes along and we finally get a look at what these guys are actually doing and what these players are going to look like for this upcoming 2024 season. But like you mentioned, we do have a few pieces of news, a few little tidbits that the Patriots have had going on since the last time we were here on the Patriots Roundtable, and that is making two key extensions. One of them being Rhamondre Stevenson. He was signed to a 4-year contract extension worth $36 million. The deal also includes $17 million in guaranteed money. And then just a few days ago, of course, signing linebacker Jahlani Tavai to a 3-year contract extension worth $15 million. The deal will be also including $21 million through incentives. So let's just start with the first one that happened. Rhamondre Stevenson signed to a 4-year contract. By the time his contract's up, because obviously this deal doesn't kick in for the 2024 season, this won't kick in till 2025. By the time that this deal is done and he's set to become a free agent, he's going to be in about his 30s. And obviously the popular thing to do with the running back position is to just go back to the draft. Every single 4 years, recycle out the running back position, because it's, a quote, dying position in the NFL. There's a lot of really good running backs on the open market. These guys, obviously, other than Christian McCaffrey, who's making like $20 million per year, the guys at the running back position usually don't get paid. But the Patriots decided to bring back Rhamondre Stevenson. What were your initial thoughts on that?
This one was weird because I was on the fence so much about Rhamondre, right? Were the Patriots going to keep him? What were they going to do? I think that it's smart to keep him, because if you lose him after this year, you're either going to have to sign a big name free agent, or you're hoping that Kevin Harris or Antonio Gibson is one of the guys that pans out, which I don't have faith in. I really, really like the 2025 running back class. I know that that's way far ahead talking about the draft. There's a lot of good players in the second, third, even fourth rounds there. I thought that maybe that was a way to go, but then still, now you need Rhamondre, or once Rhamondre leaves, if you don't re-sign him, now you need one of those rookies to come in and play week 1 and be your bell horse back. And I don't think that's very advantageous to think of. So I get the extension. He's only making about $9 million per year, which puts him probably right around, like the DeAndre Swift, Derrick Henry kind of mark for the 4 years right there. So, I don't mind it. I still think that Rhamondre Stevenson is a really good back when healthy. That's been the big problem, is when healthy. If healthy, he can be a good running back. That's why I think the Antonio Gibson signing is really good for the Patriots also, is because hopefully he can take some carries off of him. And obviously he's going to take the passing game work too. So I love Rhamondre Stevenson. I think that it's a good re-signing. And what I've liked about what Elliott Wolf has done so far is he's kept a lot of talent on this roster. Like Rhamondre Stevenson is a talented running back. You don't want to lose him. So was it a little bit more money than maybe I would have thought, essentially? But we all know the Patriots have a ton of cap space. You got to spend it somehow, and overpaying a little bit to keep the guys that you drafted here is a little bit worth it in my mind. So I actually really like the extension. There, like I said, there were still a couple question marks that I thought before they signed it, but going back and looking at it, I totally get why they did it.
Yeah, and he's currently 26 years old, so he is still young. He is still in his prime, but obviously there's a lot of tread on the tire, and there's not a lot of tread on the tire in terms of what he did in college. He wasn't really the bell cow running back that the Patriots have asked him to be since he was drafted, but, really since he was drafted back in 2021, he was asked to take on a big workload, especially in 2022, where if you remember that season, there was a lot going bad. There was a lot of rumors. That was the season where it was like Mac versus Zappy. Mac gets injured. Rhamondre Stevenson was the Patriots offense in 2022. He put up over 1,000 total rushing yards that season. And if you combine his rushing yards with his receiving yards, he put up over 1,400 yards that season. So I think there is some concern, obviously, coming off of that season-ending injury that he suffered. I want to say it was mid-season. It was like week 8 or week 9 or something like that. You obviously have your concerns. This is expected to be a really, really good running back class. You would expect that the Patriots could do what they've done under Belichick for so many years, and that is go back to the draft in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round, get a guy that's going to be able to be your lead back, that is going to be able to be your future, because obviously if you get a guy in the draft, you're not going to be paying anywhere close to $9 million per year unless, of course, that's somebody you take in the first round, which taking running backs in the first round really doesn't happen that often. I'm really under the same category as you are, right? You love to have Rhamondre back. He's a great player. He fits under several different roles. He's a guy that is a really good running back, but he's also a really good receiving back. I don't know how many times I've seen him catch one-handed passes on misthrown passes from Mac Jones, but he's also really good at blitz pickup. There is just a multitude of different things that he's able to do, and I think that is part of why they asked Rhamondre Stevenson to come back. Yes, it is popular to go into the draft and just get a caliber player at the running back position, a refreshed guy who's at the running back position. But at the end of the day, it's also in the draft. They haven't transitioned to the NFL level yet. You don't know what you're going to get from a guy out of the draft until he actually enters the NFL. So if you are able to come across a young running back that does things in your system well and fits in your system, then why not re-sign them? And that's exactly what Rhamondre has been able to do. And, you know, Jace, I was thinking about this the other day. When is the last time that we saw a true 3-down running back the way that Rhamondre Stevenson is? You know, not a guy who can just run the ball, not a guy who can just receive the ball, but a guy who can be a receiving back, who can run the ball and blitz pickup. Because, I mean, you look at it, James White, he could run the ball when he needed to, but he wasn't prolific when he ran the ball. He was mainly a receiving back who, you know, you brought on the field during 3rd downs. You can put him out wide. You can put him in the slot. He's basically a wide receiver, basically what Antonio Gibson's going to be. You had Dion Lewis kind of fit under the same role, but he was mainly a running back. Sony Michel couldn't catch passes. He was only a running back. LeGarrette Blount, he was only a running back. When is the last time the Patriots had a running back who was a 3-down back?
Gosh, you're going back way too far.
Exactly.
I mean, that's kind of the Patriots have always been known to have one of each, right? And that goes into the point that you're just saying, right? It's always been LeGarrette Blount and James White, or, you know, Damian Harris and James White, right? So there's always an and so that's a good point. I don't think that there's really been a guy that's had the whole combination that Rhamondre Stevenson does for 8, 9 plus years. I can't even think of that far back who it probably would have been.
Yeah, and Rhamondre Stevenson too. I mean, 4.6 yards per carry in his first year, 5 yards per carry in 2022, 4 yards per carry this past season, and that was under a really bad offensive line. I mean, even in 2022, where he put up 1,000 yards, where he put up 5 yards per carry, it wasn't exactly a great offensive line. So I can only imagine down the road when the Patriots start to establish a much better offensive line, you know, maybe in 2025 or 2026, just how good Rhamondre Stevenson could be. I think right now we are looking in hindsight, which of course you're going to do. And we're saying, you know what, Rhamondre Stevenson at about $9 million per year, that's a little bit rich. That's more than I think any of us were projecting him to have. But I think down the road, a year from now, 2 years from now, we could be saying, wow, Rhamondre Stevenson is one of the best running backs in the NFL, which I do think he is now, but I'm talking like top 5 in the NFL, and he's only making $9 million per year, especially with how the league is changing in terms of money and salary cap and contracts. I do think that down the road, we're going to look back and say that this is actually a team-friendly contract looking back on it, even though right now, it doesn't seem like it. So I'm on board with the Rhamondre Stevenson signing with the extension. I also think that he's going to play a pivotal role. I don't know how many guys have had to say it. Rhamondre said it. Alex Van Pelt said it. Jerron Mayo has said it. they are going to run the ball. They are going to run the ball to set up the passing game. The run game is going to be so important this upcoming season. And if you look at what Alex Van Pelt was able to do with Nick Chubb and what the Browns offense was able to do with Nick Chubb and how they run the ball in that specific offense, you have to see, because I do see parallels between Rhamondre Stevenson and Nick Chubb. And I think that this is going to be a breakout year for Rhamondre Stevenson. But
I hope it is. I hope it is. We need it. we talked about this.
Some type of talent, right?
We talked about this last episode, right? Our first episode, we talked about how reliant we're going to have to be on the run game, which is why I think that the offensive line is so scary, in my opinion, is because our offensive line is probably the biggest question on this team. And I don't know if we can run the ball or throw the ball because of how scary they're looking right now. One thing I do like, Rhamondre Stevenson in 2022, when he was fully healthy, played 17 games there. He had 801 yards after contact. I do think Rhamondre Stevenson, that was top 10 in the NFL. I do think Rhamondre Stevenson is really good at making the first guy miss. Sometimes he might be a little bit too hesitant. It kind of reminds me of Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell was always looking to make, his first move before the line of scrimmage, and then he hit the hole. Rhamondre's similar. He doesn't just hit the hole. He's not like LeGarrette Blount, right? But Rhamondre's really good at making a guy miss within 1 to 2 yards of the line of scrimmage and making it into a 5 or 6 yard gain, which goes into the yards per rushing attempt, like you mentioned. So I think that that's going to be beneficial for the Patriots, because I don't know how this offensive line is going to work. Hopefully we have a little bit more help than we did the last couple of years so that we're not moving guys around. But they need to have some stability there so that Rhamondre can have some holes to open up. And maybe Rhamondre is that type of runner because of how bad the offensive line has been. I'm not saying that that's his running style. I'm just saying that's what I've noticed the last couple of years. But it gives me a little bit of hope, is like, hey, we have a running back that is patient enough. He can make the first guy miss and turn probably what should be a 1 yard gain into a 5 or 6 or maybe even a 10+ yard gain. So really like Rhamondre's ability to make guy misses. He can run guys over. Like we've seen him lower his shoulder. He's not known for that. He's not going to be, a true goal line back, which maybe that's where Kevin Harris comes in, because he is a little bit bigger, stouter of a back that runs harder. Maybe that's where you can take some touches off of Rhamondre, which would suck because you want to reward Rhamondre with the touchdowns. But at some point, if you can take off 10, 12 hard 1 yard gains that he needs to get on third down, that might be the difference in keeping him healthy for 17 games or keeping him healthy for 13 or 14, getting rolled up on the pile, getting a concussion, something like that. So maybe Kevin Harris takes a little bit more of a goal line role to take some things there. And then, like you mentioned, he's going to have a little bit of a role in the passing game, but I still think Antonio Gibson, being that converted receiver out of Memphis and what he did in Washington, is going to be a true third down back too. That can come in and do all those things. So I like the Rhamondre thing. He's going to be a huge part of it. He might be the biggest and most important part of this offense this year, with Jacoby Brissett and Drake May, whoever it's going to be, whenever it's Drake May. He will be the most important, in my opinion, other than the offensive line. If he has a great year, you can expect this team to reach what I think is their ceiling and be a 6 or 7 win team.
Yeah, and I think it's really interesting, too. You hit upon the offensive line, which is probably the shakiest and most questionable part about this Patriots team. And the way that the offensive line shapes up, whether it's for the run game or whether it's for the passing game, I mean, the O-line in general is going to determine just how successful the Patriots are going to be this upcoming season. Like, the offensive line is going to be the reason that the Patriots only win 4 games, or the offensive line is going to be, one of the biggest reasons, I should say, if the Patriots surprise everybody and have a, Houston Texans, CJ Stroud type of season where they surprisingly end up making the playoffs. So I think it all comes down to the O-line. One thing that I think Rhamondre also has going for him is it's a shaky offensive line. There's a lot of questions that we're not going to see until the season starts. But one thing that we know has upgraded, and I think something that's going to help him, is these wide receivers, especially these bigger wide receivers and guys that are going to be able to block. I think if you have, Jalen Polk, Javon Baker, Jalen Reagor out in the field, Kendrick Bourne when he comes back and probably replace one of those guys, I think you're saying that even these wide receivers, in terms of their ability to help out the running game and make blocks, is significantly upgraded over what it was last year, which makes me feel even better about the potential of Rhamondre this upcoming season, because he was a little bit different from Ezekiel Elliott, right? Ezekiel Elliott was a guy last year who he wasn't going to give you any explosive runs. He wasn't a guy that was going to average, 4.5, 5 yards per carry, but he was a guy that wasn't going to get stopped behind the line. Rhamondre was a guy who, yeah, from time to time, he was going to get stopped at. He was going to get stopped behind, but he also would give you those explosive, consistent 40, 50, last year even 60-plus yard runs that really set this Patriots team up to actually get into the end zone rather than punt the ball. But moving on here, let's get into the second extension that the Patriots made. Like I mentioned, that was extending Jahlani Tavai. That was earlier this week on really a surprising extension that I didn't think anybody thought was going to happen this early, but a 3-year contract extension worth $15 million that obviously averages out to about $5 million per year, with it having the potential to get up to $21 million through incentives. What were your first initial thoughts on this one?
This one was probably surprising just because I didn't know if he needed to be extended right now, but it shows the importance of what Jahlani Tavai has provided to this defense. He had 110 total tackles last year, 65 solos, 45 assists. He also added a sack, 2 forced fumbles, and 2 interceptions. He was the 4th highest graded linebacker according to PFF, which I mean, me and you both watch a ton of Patriots games. I don't even think I would have said that he was that high. I know he had a better year, but he was, a late round draft pick for the Lions. He's worked his way up through special teams. I hate being the guy that's like, oh, he really deserves this just because he's been working his ass off. But this is a story. This is what the Patriots have done. This is a Julian Edelman type of story where he contributes on special teams. He works his ass off. He's actually making an impact on the field. 110 tackles over 17 games is no joke. Like, that's legit production. He actually was really good in both the run and the pass. His rush defense was top 10 also. And his coverage grade was it was 8th in the NFL. It was just a little bit below like guys like Fred Warner. It was above guys like Dre Greenlaw and Bobby Okereke, who were also great linebackers in the NFL. So this one, I'm interested to see how this affects the whole linebacking core, but it sounds like they trust Jahlani Tavai. You're not giving a guy 3 years, $5 million per that can get up to $21 million if you don't think that he's here to stay and he can be a long-term linebacker. So it'll be interesting to see how they rotate both him and Jawan Bentley, but both these guys kind of fit that old school linebacker position that are going to be true run stuffers in the middle of the formation. They're going to be able to, you're probably not putting them on the outsides as much as you would say, like Sione Takitaki, who's probably a little bit more athletic than these guys, but Jahlani Tavai can do a lot of good things, and he showed it to answer your question, I didn't think that this extension was coming. I thought there was probably more guys that they would extend, but I kind of get it, because looking at his numbers and looking at how good he's been and how much he's progressed, this is probably a locker room guy that Gerard Mayo wanted to keep.
Yeah, and I mean, look, Jahlani Tavai is a starting linebacker for the Patriots, and I feel like there's not a lot of linebackers coming out of college anymore that truly fit what the Patriots still want to do at linebacker. They don't really care necessarily about those slimmer guys who are good in coverage, maybe can set the edge a little bit. They want those big-bodied linebackers who are going to stop the run, who are going to get to the quarterback, and are just going to blow you up, right? Those guys don't really come out of the draft anymore. Like your Jawan Bentleys, your Dante Hightowers, your Gerard Mayos, right? And Gerard Mayo, let's keep in mind, was one of the most productive linebackers in Patriots history. He was, a Pro Bowler at the time in the NFL when Gerard Mayo was actually playing in the NFL. So I'm sure the type of football that he wants to run fits under that exact same style. And knowing that there's very limited of these guys in the league and very limited of these guys that come into the league on a year-to-year basis, he's probably saying to himself, Jahlani Tavai fits the exact mold of a linebacker that we want. He's been productive. If we can get him signed to an extension, let's do it. I just think the reason that the extension was a surprise, at least for the time, is because he's dealing with an injury. And a lot of players, teams are very hesitant to give players extensions who are kind of coming back or rehabbing from an injury, or, you kind of have those unknowns. And that hasn't stopped Elliott Wolf whatsoever at making these extensions. Jahlani Tavai now, Kendrick Bourne, Rhamondre Stevenson. If you had an injury, the team doesn't care because they're thinking long-term. But like you said, last year in 2023, this was his best season so far. And Jahlani Tavai is also statistically, and this is backed up, only getting better each and every single year. Last year, 107 total tackles, 11 tackles for loss, 13 quarterback pressures, 2 interceptions, and 3 pass breakups. To me, I think about last season and I say, who were the key players? Who were the key contributors on defense and really the team overall? And I think the players you think of most are Jahlani Tavai, Christian Barmore, and Jabril Peppers. Jahlani Tavai was a true staple in the Patriots defense last year. Since 2022, which I know that's not when he came to the Patriots. He came to the Patriots in 2021. But, Jace, like you mentioned earlier, Jahlani Tavai, he started on special teams. He had to work his way up. He really wasn't getting true snaps on defense until 2022. And since 2022, he has an overall PFF grade of 85, which ranks 5th among linebackers, an 84.4 overall coverage grade that ranks 6th among linebackers, an 82.9 run defensive grade, which is 14th among linebackers, and 11 missed tackles. That is the 5th fewest among linebackers in the entire NFL. And you look at what he's making. And again, you can't look at the average annual value because it is $5 million. That doesn't truly dictate what he's making on a year-to-year basis, but we don't know those numbers just yet. But if you do take that average annual value, he's getting paid way less than guys who are playing at a less caliber than he is, right? Like, he's not even being paid as a top 10 linebacker. And for multiple years now, according to PFF, he has been a top 10 linebacker in their rankings. Last year, he was a top 5 linebacker, according to the rankings. So to me, this is just another good deal that the Patriots were able to get, a team-friendly deal with one of their young core players. And you have somebody like Ja'Whaun Bentley, who's obviously going to be your number 1 middle linebacker, but he gets injured a lot, and he's not always able to be the most consistent player with, obviously being on the field. So having somebody who is able to kind of be that backup and somebody that can serve for a couple of games if he needs to be your starting linebacker definitely makes you feel a little better. And it's also not like the Patriots need 3 big middle linebackers, because teams don't really play with, 3 middle linebackers or 3 linebackers anymore. So, I think the way that the Patriots want to play defense, they want to get more aggressive, and Jahlani Tavai definitely fits under that. You just hope that whatever injury he's dealing with, obviously, he'll be ready for the start of the regular season, because he truly is a big, big piece to what the Patriots are trying to do defensively.
Well, yeah, and the other thing that, we just both hit on talking about special teams, he's still going to be on the special teams for the Patriots. Like, you can guarantee he's going to provide special teams value on most of these units too. Like, you can only field 53. This guy made his name on special teams. Yeah, he's going to play a lot of defense because he's been good, but you can probably expect him on punt. He's probably going to be one of those personal protector guys, one of those guys, he might be running down on kickoff to make a tackle. Like, he's going to provide special teams value too. And he's proved to be really good at that. So provides special teams value, provides defensive value. I expect the Patriots to spend a lot of time in nickel. So really only having 2 linebackers on the field. They will get into 3 linebacker sets, which I think they're really in a good position with Tavai, and then now Ja'Whaun Bentley, if they're all healthy. So you have a good 3 linebacker right there, right? You probably put Bentley truly in the middle. You can put Jahlani Tavai on one side with Taki on the other. And then, they like to play cover 3. So you're going to have a safety in the box or cover 1 who's going to be guarding one of those tight ends. So there's still a lot of things you can do here. Most of the NFL is probably playing the majority of their snaps in a nickel type personnel. It's just how the game's going. There's going to be some teams, the Lions, I know, ran a lot of 12 personnel and 13 personnel stuff. So you will get in bigger packages, but most of the time you're only going to have 2 backers on the field, and it's going to be him or Bentley switching, in my opinion. And then Taki, who I think signed a pretty healthy contract with the Patriots too, is going to be on the field most of the time. He's a little bit more athletic than both these guys. So I actually really like, it was actually voted one of the top 10 strongest linebacker units. I forget, it was PFF or someone just ranked all the linebacker units, and all 3 of those guys were in the top 32, if I remember right. I'd have to pull up the exact PFF one.
They just did linebackers and safeties, and the Patriots were just in 2 of their top 10.
Yeah. So, they're getting not only hype from other Patriots, or other media outlets, it's, the main guys too. I'm trying to pull it up right here so I can have it exactly and read them off to you guys. But yeah, it was the top 32 guys. Jahlani Tavai came in at 18th. Taki came in at 28th, and Ja'Whaun Bentley came in at 32nd. And if I remember right, I don't have the exact graphic in front of me, the Patriots were the only team that had 3 guys on that list. Most other teams only had 2 guys. They're only doing the top 32 backers. So most teams had 2 guys. The Patriots had all 3 of them in the top 32. So national media is giving these guys some props too.
Yeah, man, it's wild to me. It's wild to me that on these Wednesday shows, like, I'm getting attacked by like Jets fans and whatnot, and Dolphins fans. And I'm like, they're like, 3-win team. You guys have no talent. What's positive about your team? And I'm like, what's good about the team? look, I understand the offense is questionable. I understand that the future is questionable. There's a lot of unknowns and uncertainty, but if you know anything about football, especially from a team you play twice a year, you think you'd be smart enough to know that the Patriots have one of the best defenses in the entire National Football League. But anyway, I wanted to get to a couple of these comments real quick. Shout out to Greg. He says, sup, Colby. Good shit. Go Bills. Let me tell you. Bills Mafia, strangely, I respect so much. And you wouldn't think so because they've been at the top of the division for 5 years now. They were the team throw in, certain toys that we will not name onto the Gillette Stadium field when they would come play the Patriots during the Tom Brady era. And I feel like out of the entire AFC East, obviously Patriots taken out, the team that I respect the most is probably the Bills because they don't talk. They show love. They've shown respect. They don't talk a bunch of crap. And I swear, since I've gotten on the AFC East Roundtable, it's always the Bills fans showing the love. I mean, shout out here to Richie Fresh, our first donator here in today's stream. It says, Colby, just wanted to drop by and show some love. We appreciate you, Richie Fresh, man. Thank you so much for stopping by and tuning into Patriots Roundtable. Really appreciate you. Real quick, Jace, I'm actually curious to get your thoughts on this. If you had to rank just amongst like the fan bases, who would you rank? Obviously, Patriots not included. Who would you rank in terms of the AFC East? Bills, Jets, Dolphins. Where would you rank them in terms of like most annoying?
So I would put the Jets as the first, the Bills as the second, and then, or sorry, not the Bills, the Dolphins, and then I put the Bills. The reason I put the Bills is because I actually respect Bills fans as much back and forth as we have with the Bills. This is a franchise and an organization that's donating money to players that get hurt on their field, like their causes and stuff. I think the Bills, as delusional as they can be sometimes, are an actual knowledgeable fan base. I think the Jets fans are delusional. I think Dolphins fan, TD's delusional too, even though he's a funny as heck. He's kind of delusional too. They want to pay Tua. So I would actually go Jets as the most annoying, Dolphins, and then Bills. I hate them all. I mean, that would be my 32nd, 31st, and 30th worst fan bases in the NFL, just because we have to deal with them in there. But I actually, out of all these teams, I think Bills fans have the most football knowledge. And if you can get past the blasphemy they're saying and just realize they've never won a Super Bowl and we've won 6, they're actually pretty funny people. And they're actually kind of fun to hang out with and stuff. And they know how to party. I mean, I've never been to a Bills game, but I know a couple Bills fans. There's actually a player that I know that went to the same college I did, Taron Johnson. He went to Weber State. He's up there. And I've only heard good things about Bills Mafia and stuff. So as much as it pains me because they've been the best team in the AFC East the last 4 years since we stopped dominating, they're probably the ones, in my opinion. So, see, right here, TD, we sweeping Pats again. Come on, man.
No, but like real talk, I would probably rank it. I'd probably rank it the same. See, so I originally had the Dolphins above the Jets, but it seems like since the emergence of Aaron Rodgers or since the trade for Aaron Rodgers, like Jets fans have been going off. And let me tell you, like, Dolphins fans, they go crazy, right? I mean, they go crazy. They want to pay Tua. They're not sure. They're coming at the neck of like the Patriots, even though they have the longest playoff drought out of any team in the entire National Football League. It's like, don't talk about my team when I've won a playoff game more recently than you have, won a Super Bowl, been to a Super Bowl more recently than you have, been to the AFC Championship game and won more recent than you have. But I feel like I would also have to put the Dolphins, at least currently, number 2, because I don't know what it is with Jets fans. But this happened even on our past Wednesday show where Jets fans were just coming at the necks. And it's not all of them, because I have some really good friends who are Jets fans. Ian from Jet Central, obviously, Richie. Those are my guys. They're great Jets fans. But then it's like, you say something negative and they're immediately down your throat. And it's like, you're wrong. Well, tell me how I'm wrong. You're wrong. Tell me how I'm wrong. And no one can tell you how. Like when I said that we talked about this on the Wednesday show, me and TD were kind of coming at Rich and we're like, look, we're not trying to make anything about it. We're just saying we think that there is some toxicity going on behind the scenes at MetLife with Aaron Rodgers skipping minicamp to go to Egypt, Robert Saleh's job being on the line, right? You would think that everybody would want to be on the same page to try to win the Super Bowl, because this is a must year. And this is a prove it year for the New York Jets. You are in a Super Bowl window with jobs on the line, with reputations on the line, and you think that you'd want to be at every practice, right? And they didn't want to hear it. They didn't want to hear it. So I think right now I'd have to put Jets fans as the craziest right now. As crazy as that is, because they've been in the basement for how long? Yeah, I would say that they're the most delusional right now.
Yeah, well, and that's the same thing. What we hadn't lost to the Jets in since 2015 or whatever, years. We'd swept them, and then we finally lose to them last year, and it's like they're the best team in the world and stuff. So no, I mean, I think the other reason too, I hate the Yankees, and probably most Yankees fans or Jets fans or Giants fans or something. So there's a little delusion in just all New York sports. You look at the Mets too, who pay the most money to all their players, and they can never win a playoff series. And then you got 27 championships. It must just be New York sports fans, in my opinion. They must just be the most delusional.
Hey, but look, I get it. Like if you've been in the basement for a while, right? We've been here for a year and that's all. But if you've been in there for a while and you have potential to go to a Super Bowl, you're probably going to be a little delusional, but don't get delusional until you actually start winning, right? Look, that's all I'm saying. Because here's what I said. I said, as Patriots fans, we saw the downfall of Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. We saw Tom Brady leave the New England Patriots. We saw this dynasty crumble, but we also saw when it was positive. We saw when it was happy. We saw when they were winning. We saw when relationships were good. We saw when they won Super Bowls and when they lost Super Bowls. We have seen these things. And let me tell you, in the back end of Tom Brady's career here in New England, 2018, 2019, you knew that there was dysfunction. And as Patriots fans, we didn't want to believe that there was any dysfunction. We were blind to it. And we said, we don't want to talk about it. We don't believe it. Nothing's happening. I said that myself. I was like, nothing's happening. Tom Brady's going to be back. Tom Brady ends up leaving the Patriots in 2020, and everything starts coming to a head. And let me tell you, that's how I can see that there was something going on behind the scenes there in New York, because I see parallels of what happened when Tom Brady didn't want to come and in practice as much as he could with what Aaron Rodgers is doing right now. There is something going on behind the scenes there in New York, whether it's Robert Saleh, whether it's Aaron Rodgers, whether it's Hassan Reddick, something's happening. There's definitely some toxicity.
There's something brewing over there. And other than Aaron Rodgers, I don't know how the Jets' future looks, because once Aaron Rodgers is done, once he hangs it up, whenever that is, might be after this year, I don't know how they're looking. I mean,
they're screwed. I mean, and
exactly.
they want to say that we're in a quarterback carousel. We had Cam Newton, who was 1 or 2 games away from taking us to the playoffs if he didn't get COVID. And then you had a Mac Jones, who in the beginning of his career in New England was good. He made a Pro Bowl. He was in NFL Tops 100. He was Rookie of the Month. He was in the conversation for Offensive Rookie of the Year. Bill Belichick screwed him over. Now you get Drake May, who is a potential generational quarterback who you took in the top 3. You guys, Sam Darnold, didn't work out. Zach Wilson didn't work out. Y'all have been through the quarterback carousel, and it didn't work out for you. That's why, as a Jets fan, again, you should be wanting your team to be completely locked in and zoned in, because you have 1-2 years max of a Super Bowl window before he retires. Robert Saleh's fired if they don't go to the Super Bowl, they don't win a Super Bowl. And you've proven it before. You don't work well when you're in the quarterback carousel. For some reason, the Jets cannot draft a quarterback, even when they have a top pick.
Yeah. So Richie, I know, I'm sorry. I forget that the Bills are the only New York team, even though the Giants and the Jets have it in their name. You might know this. Are most Bills fans just Bills fans, or what? Are they actual Yankees fans too? Because I feel like Bills fans are so diehard for the Bills that's their team. I think that's why the Jets and stuff make me so mad, is they're Yankees fans and they're Knicks fans. And so they have these other Rangers fans in the NHL. And then they're just, like you mentioned, they're closet Jets fans that are all of a sudden climbing out of the depths because they got Aaron Rodgers. So Richie, you might know a little bit more than us about that. I feel like most Jets fans and stuff, even though, they're not in New York, probably support the Yankees and stuff there also. The Bills are true Buffalo Bills fans right there. So, but I agree with what you said though about the Jets too. And John just said it right here. Jets are the death place for football. Zach Wilson might go have a 2 or 3 year really decent career with the Broncos with a good coach in Sean Payton. And, he can't do anything. Sam Darnold has shown that he can play football, when he's under a good coaching staff. He might be able to do something because he has Justin Jefferson. He's going to be in Minnesota. So these quarterbacks they're taking, maybe it's not the quarterbacks they're taking. Maybe it's just the Jets literally are the death place for football. That could be it. They might be the worst ran organization. So
Yeah, I agree. It's also funny the Richie saying about the New Jersey Jets. If you say that to Richie, I think Richie gets pressed about that if you call it the New Jersey Jets and not the New York Jets. It's kind of funny. I'm waiting for Richie to pop in here and like just this long comment scrolls down. Richie
He's
with another
typing it
tweet
right
out
now.
of the nation says, unfortunately, Sabres and Red Sox, Sabres and Red Sox.
Yeah. So
sorry, my screen was a little far.
yeah.
Sabres
So he's
and Red
saying
Sox.
both. Yeah. Most Jets fans are Sabres and Red Sox fans, or the Bills. So yeah, that makes sense. Buffalo Bills, Buffalo Sabres. The Red Sox one's crazy. They should be Patriots fans too, man. You're going into Boston.
You know what? I will never fault anybody for being a Boston fan. Like, if you're a Boston fan and you're like, oh, like, I like the Red Sox, but then I like the Eagles. I'm like, what are you doing? Right. But like, if you're a Bills fan, you're like, I like the Bills, but I also like the Red Sox. I'm like, you know what? You got some common knowledge because at least one of the teams you like is Boston. And how could you not like a Boston team? Boston has been proven to be title town in all sports. Yep. So it's like rooting against them. Like you're asking to be depressed. But
yep.
Anyway, so we have one more thing that we do want to get into, and that is the latest rumors about Matthew Judon. So as we all know, maybe you know, maybe you don't, I just uploaded a video on my channel about this, reacting to it a couple of days ago, and that is supposedly Matthew Judon's time in New England is coming to an end after what he tweeted. So for those who don't know, in fact, let me share my screen and show you guys for reference. So this is what Matthew Judon tweeted out that has the entire NFL, especially Pats Nation, in just a complete circus. So some Patriots fan tweeted at him and said, if the Patriots don't give Matthew Judon an extension this season, we are effed. Pay the man what he wants. We want a solid defense. And whoever Matt is, I completely agreed with him. Matthew Judon, on the other hand, gives us a little bit of insight on the contract situation and says, I don't think that's about to happen. And, I looked at it from a different range at first. I was like, okay, well, maybe he says, I don't think that's about to happen, not referring to the contract, but he says, you don't have to worry about the Patriots not giving me a contract because I'm going to be back. Unfortunately, he tweets out a couple hours later, the same day after responding to this tweet, and says, I'm a head out. As most Patriots fans are referring that he means he's heading out of New England. Jace, what are your thoughts on this?
Man, I don't know. I was just trying to enjoy the 4th of July, and then I freaking had all this crap coming on. And I'm from Utah, so I'm a Jazz fan. So I was worried about the Larry Markkinen trade or whatever. And so he needs to be a better GM or whatever it is, because he's always trying to get guys to get traded to New England or sign with us. And now he might even leave. So I don't know. I don't know what to think of his tweet, whether it means he's, saying, oh, I'm going to get a contract, or saying he doesn't know if he's going to get one. I think this guy, he's going to be 32 this year. Just 2 years ago, he had 17 sacks, which was 4th in the NFL. Obviously, we know he had that biceps injury this year, so he got hurt and wasn't able to play and, have that production. But this is a guy the Patriots need for at least the next 2 years, right? You need to find a little bit more draft. You need to draft a little bit more DNs, right? You sign Anthony Jennings. He can provide some pass rush value. Josh Uche, if you don't extend him after this year, he's gone. Now you're just losing 2 of your most productive sack guys. So I hope they figure out a way to do it, figure it out, because he said he wants to retire here. And it would really be shocking to me if Elliott Wolf spends all this money to re-sign all this talent like he just did with Tavai, Kendrick Bourne, Hunter Henry, Rhamondre Stevenson, Michael Winu, yet he lets who might be the most beneficial free agent guy to extend in Matthew Judon walk. I would find that really hard to believe that that's what he's going to do. So I'm holding out hope, thinking that he's going to have an opportunity to stay here. Maybe he just wants to get one more bag, and I don't know what that's worth. And maybe you want to just trade him. I don't even know what his trade value would be. Like if we trade him mid-season before the deadline because we know an extension's not going to happen. I mean, what are we getting, a 3rd or a 4th? I don't know I don't think we're getting a 2nd round pick for him. Not at his age. So I don't know. I hope they can just figure something out. That would be the easiest thing to do. But yeah, it's him tweeting all this stuff is not looking very, very likely.
Yeah, and we got another donation here from Richie Fresh. Jace, you want to read this one?
Yeah, he said, you bet I hate the Bruins and Brad Marchand, LOL. So he's a Sabres fan. He hates the Boston Bruins. He doesn't like Brad Marchand. So that's good. I like the I wish there was a little bit more pro sports teams in Utah. The Jazz and the new hockey team there, but I'm jealous of like teams that have all 4 major sports teams because you just get to support your whole city, man. That's awesome. Like I have so much pride for freaking my state that I'm from, and I wish I could support all those. Obviously, I'm a Patriots fan and stuff too, but I have so much. So that's cool that you get to cheer for all those guys and you have that burning hatred passion. So, and then he comes in again. He said, if it helps, I got you guys the Pats with 8 wins. So
Richie Fresh, the MVP of the chat today.
I know.
MVP, man.
$10 all in $2 donation. So
let's go.
I think the ceiling for this team is 7 wins. That's the best case scenario. 8 wins for me would be like, holy crap, Drake May had a CJ Stroud type of year. Jalen Polk's hype that he had through mini camp is living up to expectations. And then obviously the training or the defense is as good as everyone expects it to be. So 8 wins would be a lot of, like, that would be best case scenario. And I guess not best case. I'd be winning the Super Bowl, but that would be overachieving in my opinion. I really think 7 wins for this Patriots team, how they're currently constructed and how we believe they're going to start with Jacoby Brissett and work in the young guys later. I think 8 wins would be like a fantastic year for us. And we'd be like, oh, this rebuild might be a little bit faster than what we think.
Yeah, you obviously hope they can get 8+ wins. I think even if they win 8 games, then they're still probably not in the playoffs. They'll be in the discussion towards the end, but I think you're going to have to win, 9, 10+ games in order to be in the playoffs. Right now, I think my projection that I thought I had like 6 for the Patriots. When I just did the record, like off the bat, and then kind of added it up at the end, I had the Patriots with 7. So I definitely think there is a chance for them to have 7. I think that week 1 against the Bengals is a much easier game than a lot of people give them credit for. Joe Burrow, obviously coming off that season-ending injury, hasn't played football in a long time. Questions if he's even going to start week 1, and if he does, to what are his limits going to be? Not to mention that the Bengals, Joe Burrow, they all always start off very, very slow historically, even in 2023, 2022, even the year they went to the Super Bowl in 2021, they start off slow. So, I think that it's all going to depend, and the Patriots might have the upper hand early on when nobody knows what to expect from Jacoby Brissett and Drake May and Gerard Mayo and the new coaching that the Patriots have and Alex Van Pelt offensively. That's something that the Patriots could ride on for maybe the first few weeks, first half of the season. And then, hopefully they have it together by the second half when they, opposing teams start picking up on the team's tendencies. So I think there's definitely a path to where the Patriots can win 8+ games. But I think right now I have them between like 6 and 7 realistically. But you know what? Anyone who says the Patriots will win more games than I think, especially an in-division rival, nothing but absolute respect for you. Yeah. And I really don't have anything but respect for Richie Fresh. Richie, I hope that you are right and we win more games than me and Jace both think. I really, really do. Yeah. But getting into my kind of thoughts on the Matthew Judon situation, I'm under the same kind of influence that you are, Jace, right? And Judon right now, he's 31 years old. I didn't know he was already 31 years old when I looked that up. So I can understand where maybe they wouldn't want him back. Maybe they don't want to pay an aging, coming off a season-ending injury, what, $15+ million, which is probably what you're going to have to give him. Because, I mean, he is one of the best edge rushers in the entire National Football League. It probably just depends on what is the contract that he's looking for? And we obviously don't know that. And Jace, here's what I've tried to put together over why New England might not want to bring Matthew Judon back. And here's my theory. And this theory could be put to bed in like a week if they make one more extension. But the way that I see it, they know that they're in a rebuild. They know they're not going to be competitive this year. They know that they're not going to be competitive, at the very earliest 2025. It's going to take time for this team to be a true contender in the playoffs and fight for a Super Bowl, which is why they're extending key players. You extended Rhamondre Stevenson, who's in his younger to mid-20s. Same thing with Christian Barmore. You brought back KB, who's what? I want to say 27, 28. He's in his, mid-30s also. All of the extensions that the Patriots have made have been with guys who are in their early to mid 30s. They're not extending these guys that are 29, 30 plus years old. Look at the guys, Jace, that are still pending free agents in 2025. Jonathan Jones. There's just to name a few key players that are still 2025 free agents. Jonathan Jones, Devon Godchaux, Matthew Judon. All of those guys are already 30 or are about to be 30 and are key players to the team. Ironically, the team has decided to not extend them, at least as of yet. Oh, and Dietrich Weiss, but has decided not to extend them yet, but is extending these younger players. To me, it would not surprise me, Jace, if they decide not to extend those guys. If they decide that Matthew Judon, Jonathan Jones, all of those guys at this point in their career, they are going to be on the decline. They're not going to be on the upcline, and they're not going to be a part of this team. They'll probably be retired by that time. They're not going to be a part of this team when you are finally competing for a Super Bowl. So why extend those guys? If you're going to be bad for the next few years, why not use those years as developing years for young guys who are going to have those young developing pains? They're going to give up, a quarterback's going to give up a long touchdown, or is going to give up, 40 catches on the season. But as long as he's developing, you'd rather have that 25-year-old than the 31-year-old who is a much better player, but he's on the decline. And that's how I see it for the Patriots. And like I said, this theory could be put to bed if they extend Jonathan Jones next week. But that's the simplest answer for me. That's the only thing that makes sense, is that they understand the situation they're in, and they're not going to extend these older veterans because they just don't make sense for where the team is at. But I agree with you. And I said this in my live stream the other day. Matthew Judon is the only player that plays catches with the fans. He interacts with the fans. He tries to be, a GM. He's trying to recruit players to New England. Nobody else on the Patriots does that. Nobody else is trying to recruit. Nobody else is out there playing catch with the fans. Matthew Judon was still traveling with the Patriots last year, despite his injury history, despite, being out for the season. He was still out there before the game, before training camp, playing catch with all the fans, and nobody else does that. I think there's value in keeping Matthew Judon. You want locker room guys. You want guys who are going to be here, and I do still think that at least for this upcoming season, Matthew Judon is going to be able to play at a high rate, and it's not unseen for edge rushers to play deep into their mid to late 30s. So if you give Matthew Judon a 2-year extension, I still think he's going to do so at a high level. Here in New England, since he got here in 2021, he's put up historical seasons. In 2021, put up 12.5 sacks. That was his career best. Then in 2022, 15.5 sacks, new career best. This past season was on pace for another career best. In 4 games, put up 4 sacks. I don't think that he is losing a step. At least he hasn't shown it. I also think that it's a bicep tear. Is it ideal? No, but it's not an ACL tear. It's not a type of injury that usually plagues a player's career. So to me, bring him back. Bring him back on a 1 to 2 year deal and go from there. As long as he's not asking for $20+ million, I don't see why you wouldn't want him there.
And that's my point, is the Patriots, as of right now, have the second most cap space going into next year with $87 million. If you give Matt Judon a 2-year, $30 million contract, fully guaranteed, $15 million a year, you still have $60 million. Go spend 25 of it on T. Higgins or something if you want. I'm not saying they're going to trade for Brandon Ayuk, but you're going to have to pay $20 million plus there. There's no really good left tackles on the market. Say that Tristan Wirfs from the Bucks doesn't get an extension from Tampa Bay, which I don't know why they wouldn't, because they just re-signed Baker. I don't know why the heck you wouldn't go give Matt Judon $15 million a year for 2 more years, because like you said, you can let him play until he's 35. I still think he's going to be a really productive defensive end for a lot of NFL teams. So, and then my other point is, it was someone up here that was talking about it, how we better not get anything less than a second or third. It was Neil that said it. I don't know if we would get a third for him. I really don't. I don't think that people are going to pay give us a 3rd round pick for a 33-year-old player that has an expiring contract. And maybe even if they do feel confident that they can extend him, I don't know. I think a 3rd would be best case scenario. Like, I would take a 3rd for him, but I'm on your side. Like, give him 2 years, $30 million. You still have $60 million of cap space next year. If you want to bring back Jonathan Jones, you can. I don't think he's going to break the bank. He would probably be a little bit more expensive than some, but you still have young corners like Christian Gonzalez. You can always draft one. You have Marcus Jones. You have guys that you can work with there. So I would think that Matt Judon is probably one of the most important guys to extend as of right now, who doesn't have a contract. I think that 2 years, 30 million makes sense, or 30 million makes sense in my opinion for him. I'm looking at the free agents going through. We're not going to take a quarterback. We just re-signed Rhamondre, so we're not going to spend money there. Wide receiver would be the only one, and you could pay T. Higgins if he actually does hit the market. Right now, they're saying his market value is about 25 million, which we'll see if he actually gets that. That's what Brandon Ayuk would want too if he gets traded. Tight end, we drafted one. Maybe you do that, but you have Hunter Henry also. Left tackle, I just mentioned. Right now, the only good ones other than Tristan Wirfs, and I don't think he hits the market, is 33-year-old Garrett Bowles or 30-year-old Cam Robinson. And those guys are probably going to expect 15 plus million too. So still, if you sign Judon for 15 million a year and give one of those guys 15 million, you're still going to have $40 million. So I don't know. I just feel like with where the Patriots are with cap space, you're not going to spend $80 million of money in free agency unless Elliott Wolf is just going to shock us. But we've never seen the Patriots do it before. So unless they have this plan that, hey, we are going to go give T. Higgins 25 million, and then we're going to get a starting caliber left tackle for another 20 million, then it's different. But right now, I just don't see how they can spend $80 million in salary cap if they don't go out and give Matt Judon what he wants and keep him on this team. So I would be all for keeping him for $15 to $18 million.
Yeah, the way that I see this whole Matthew Judon situation too is it's just like, well, you have a couple of options. You have 3 options in my mind, right? You can extend him, you can let him play out his contract and hit free agency, or you can trade him. You have a guy that every single year has been in the conversation when he's healthy for Defensive Player of the Year. And I understand he's 31, he's coming off a season-ending injury, and he's in contract year. You don't really have much going for him. But to me, this is kind of like, would you just let a number 1 wide receiver hit free agency? No. You're either going to extend him or you are going to trade him. And I think that that's the same thing that the Patriots should do. And maybe they don't because it's a respect thing or whatnot, but at the very least, then work with Matthew Judon on finding a trade partner. He is a really good player. And I think that there would be a lot of teams that would still be interested in him. Probably all contenders who feel like maybe they're one piece away. There was somebody in my comment section when I dropped my Matthew Judon video and my thoughts who said, ship off Matthew Judon to the 49ers for Brandon Ayuk, somebody else, and then also send over a 3rd-round pick. It was like one of their star defensive players. And I was like, yeah, so you're going to have to give up a lot more than that in order to get those players, because Matthew Judon does not hold the weight that I think a lot of people think that he currently does. Age and injury history are going to plague a player's trade value. And right now, that's the exact same thing happening for Matthew Judon, to where, look, maybe you could get a second, depending on how many teams are interested. I think if teams are really bidding for Matthew Judon, then maybe a team like the Kansas City Chiefs say, you know what? We're one piece away. We need to rely on our defense. We'll give you a 2nd-round pick for what will be a top edge rusher in the entire NFL. And we know will get us at least 10 sacks on the season. But realistically, yeah, you're probably looking at a 3rd-round pick. And in that case, are you saying, well, that's disrespectful for the player that we know he is and the value we know he has? So is it even worth it? I think that you want to see players retire here. When is the last time that we truly saw a key player for the Patriots actually retire here? I'd probably say, Julian Edelman?
Yeah, Edelman.
Back in 2020 was probably the last time.
Yeah.
And, we didn't see Stephon Gilmore to retire here. They decided to ship him off. Don't do the same thing with Judon. You're showing that this is a place that takes care of their players, and you're showing that this is a positive place to play. Do the same thing with Matthew Judon. He is a fan favorite, and he is a face to the franchise right now. There are a lot of unknowns with the team, a lot of unknown players that you can buy their jerseys and like to watch them play on a weekly basis. Matthew Judon has that. Mr. Red Sleeves, doing the little celebration every single week. That is something Patriots fans can look forward to during training camp, and something that they can look forward to each and every single week when the season is here and you need butts in your seat. Matthew Judon is a guy that helps you get butt in your seat. So look, if you get a 2nd-round pick offer, you get a 1st-round pick offer magically somehow, if that happened, okay, I understand, take it. But if not, it's not worth it. So my verdict, extend Matthew Judon. It doesn't need to be anything crazy. Give him a 1 to 2 year extension and go from there.
Totally agree. I think he's got to be on this roster. I'm not saying this team would be a average defense without Matt Judon, but I think that if you take Matt Judon off this defense, they're not as good as everyone's hoping they're going to be this year. Like, I'm expecting him to come back and have 12 plus sacks, which is probably going to lead the team. If you take him off there, I think that it ruins the whole not ruins the whole pass rush, but now they're going to be able to double team Christian Barmore on the interior a little bit more, or all the focus goes to Josh Uche. Like, the value that he brings to his teammates too, because of what he does, how much attention he demands, is so valuable for the other pass rushers on this team. Keon White's development like that. So I think that he's got it. I think that he's got to be the one that is the next extension on the table for the Patriots. So got another donation here from Sly. You got this one?
Yeah, I can do this one. So $5 donation from Sly says, best case scenario is a playoff berth as we shock the world like the Texans did, except they'll be mad because they didn't want us to get better at all. No, nobody wants us to get better. I think if the Patriots get better and they have a Houston Texans-like year, the NFL is going to go buck wild. That's like the Kansas City Chiefs being mid for like 5 years and then coming back and having a future. Nobody wants to see it, but you know what? Who cares if nobody wants to see it? Because you know what? The Empire always comes back. The evil always comes back. Darth Vader always comes back. And so do the New England Patriots. We just need it to happen.
Yeah, Sly, this is my best case scenario is that Drake, and I don't think Drake May starts week 1 like CJ Stroud did. So I don't think that this is kind of in the books, but if Drake May were to start week 1, this would be my best case scenario is, hey, all of a sudden Drake May is like CJ Stroud and you're like, holy crap, like he's having this historic year. He wins rookie of the year. And now you're like, oh, we just need to go get him a number 1 receiver. Or like we've heard through minicamp is Jalen Polk or Javon Baker, who we believe is going to be really good, starts to have these breakout seasons. You're like, oh, that's the number 1 guy. So we have our number 1 guy plus our franchise quarterback here. Now we just solidify the offensive line. So that would be best case scenario for me. I don't see how it happens because I don't think Drake May is starting week 1. And I think this team has a little bit more youthful pains to go through. But it could be very similar. Gerard Mayo is a first-year head coach. DeMeco Ryans was a first-year head coach for the team he played for. So it very well could. That would be like best case scenario in my opinion. And there would be a lot of joy for me because I do agree. Neil's talking about the 2-year, $30 million contract for Judon. He said he'd like it to be 3 years because he thinks that's when we're competing, which I get that. But I think that you're looking at probably, you got to solidify the offensive line after this season, whether it's with your first round pick or through free agency. And maybe you need to sign a true number 1 receiver and let Jalen Polk be the second and Javon Baker be the third. However it goes, you probably are going to have to replace Judon at one point. So I think they're about 3 years away from truly, if everything goes 100% right, from being AFC East, like winning the AFC East again and being in AFC Championship, Super Bowl contention again. So I really do believe that it's probably 3 years for the Patriots.
And what you have to also remember, too, is that with CJ Stroud, not only did he start week 1, but with CJ Stroud, too, he started in pretty much every single preseason game, if I'm correct. I know he started against the Patriots, and he played pretty lengthy in those preseason games, too. But not just that, he was the starting quarterback throughout OTAs, throughout minicamp, throughout training camp. That's not the same thing we're seeing with Drake May. I agree with you. I don't think that he starts week 1. I think that, personally, I'm not starting Drake May at the very least. Obviously, you want him to be ready, and that is step 1. But I'm also not starting Drake May until we see a consistent combination of the offensive line. For me, I don't want Drake May to start week 1, and then week 5, we're saying this is the 5th offensive line combination that we are seeing in 5 weeks in Drake May's 5th start, right? Like, if you want to see what you have in your offensive line and you want to do what Bill Belichick did and use the beginning of the season as an extension to the offseason, okay, but don't throw Drake May out there to do that, right? I'm not under the assumption that the Patriots should wait to throw Drake May out there until the situation is perfect, because I think that's a stupid take. I don't think there's any such thing as a perfect situation. And there's only one team in the league to me that has a perfect situation, and that is the San Francisco 49ers. So I say, the situation doesn't have to be perfect, but at least know what the offensive line is going to consistently be when you are going to start him.
Yeah. Richie says, depending on what happens in training camp, unless it's terrible, you start Drake May. Respectfully, what does he learn behind Brissett? This really surprises me coming from a Bills fan, because Josh Allen only started 11 games his rookie year. Like, You could have said the same thing. Josh Allen had the exact same things coming out. Oh, he has this wicked strong arm, but he makes a little bit weird decisions and he doesn't have the best footwork and stuff, right? Like, I've compared Drake May to two people, and I'm not saying that he's going to turn into Josh Allen or Justin Herbert, but I said if he reaches his potential, he can be those guys. I think that it does nothing but benefits Drake May from sitting out. Like you mentioned, you got to figure out the offensive line combination. You need to develop some of these receivers so he has some weapons. But two, he's one of the youngest prospects in the class other than JJ McCarthy. He still needs time to learn how to prepare. Jacoby Brissett's a veteran. He's going to be able to come in and say, hey, this is how you prepare. This is how you watch film. This is how you study your opponents, this and that. Like, I think there's nothing but beneficial terms for Drake May to sit the first 8 weeks. So I really think that, yeah, like people are saying in here, he could start versus the Jags. He could start week 10. It depends. If the Patriots somehow are 5-5 going into week 10 and there's a potential that Jacoby Brissett can lead him to the wild card berth, you probably don't start Drake May. But if they're where I think they'll be around 2-6 or 3-7, somewhere in that range, then it's fine. You start him and you say, hey, we're probably out of playoff contention, but this is your team now. Go out there and have all those things. So I don't think there's any time to rush. Like, would I love for the Patriots to have a Houston Texans type last year and see Drake May be CJ Stroud? I would love it, but I don't think that there's any rush. And you've seen more likely than not that rookie quarterbacks don't have that type of year. Zach Wilson didn't have that type of year. Heck, the number one pick last year, Bryce Young. I think that what the Patriots are dealing with right now is pretty similar to what the Panthers are. They're not a very good team. Now, the Texans went out and drafted Tank Dell, who was really good. That could be what Jalen Polk turns into, maybe. But that's with everything hitting 100% and going exactly how you needed it to go. So I don't think that he's starting until at least week 8, 9, or 10, somewhere in that range. And I'm totally fine with it. My expectations, I'm not saying I'm giving up on this team, but my expectations for this team is to win 4 to 5 games, get a pick right around number 10, and draft a franchise left tackle. And then you start building from there once Drake May shows what he can do. But it's not about, hey, we need to get Drake May in as fast as possible. He might turn into Mac Jones or he might turn into Josh Allen. No, we're going to take our time. We're going to get this one right, because it sucks what we did to Mac Jones. Like, what happened? Yeah. I thought that we would be competing right now. Right after rookie year Mac Jones, you're like, holy crap, there's a chance that we could be competing in 3 years. Well, now 3 years later, screwed that experiment up. We're right back at step one. So I would rather take our time and do this one right than go 50-50 and risk it.
Yeah, I also think that there's a lot to learn from Brissett too. I think that a lot of times people think that learning from a quarterback, a veteran quarterback, has to be one of the greatest. It has to be Tom Brady. It has to be Aaron Rodgers. It has to be, Josh Allen down the line. And that's not what that means, because you're not necessarily looking for the most talented quarterback. You're looking for the quarterback that has that mental state, that has the mind to be able to read the game. As a young quarterback, you already have the talent. Drake May has that talent that nobody's going to be able to teach. You either have that or you don't. But what he's going to learn from Jacoby Brissett is the mental part of the game. Hey, how do you make this throw? Hey, what are you seeing in this read? Just basically trying to understand what the difference is between the game that he played in college and the game that he's now entering at the NFL level, which is the highest competition that you're going to face when playing football. And interesting fact, too, is that, look, Jacoby Brissett has been in the league for this long for a reason. He's a journeyman quarterback for a reason. I think that he is really the perfect mentor quarterback for Drake May, because what you have to understand too is that Jacoby Brissett has been in this offensive system under Alex Van Pelt, because he was a starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns just a few years ago when they were kind of going through that whole Deshaun Watson trade and that whole transition. So not only is he going to be able to help Drake May kind of learn the game of the NFL, but what he's also going to be able to do is he's going to be able to help teach him in this system, because this is a system that Drake May is going to play under for the next several years. But also, this is a system that Jacoby Brissett a few years ago for multiple years also played under. So there really is a lot of value in that. Not to also mention the fact that, believe it or not, Jacoby Brissett is one of the least turnover-worthy quarterbacks in the entire National Football League. He's actually the second least next to Aaron Rodgers since like 19-something, like 1990, 95 or something like that. So Jacoby Brissett also never turns over the ball, which is something that Drake May drastically needs to improve on. So I really do think that Brissett is the perfect mentor quarterback, believe it or not, for Drake May. But there is one more question that I kind of wanted to end off here with, Jace, and that is a little bit reverting back to Matthew Judon. And that is something Neil hit on, and that is, if the Patriots, let's say they do move on from him, how do they replace him? What do they do? To me, it doesn't take one person to replace Matthew Judon. Matthew Judon is able to play every single down defensively. He's a 4-down defensive lineman, not even a 3-down. He's a 4-down defensive lineman, good at getting to the quarterback, good at stopping the run. I think it's going to take multiple players to replace him. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, first thing, if you lose Matt Judon, in my opinion, it's because you're saying he's probably a little bit too old and not on this timeline. So you got to give Josh Uche a longer term extension. He's only on for a 1-year deal. He's already said he took a pay cut to stay here. So I would hope he wants to be here. So if you lose Judon, you take that $15 million you weren't willing to give to Judon, and you give 12, maybe even all of it to to Josh Uche, because he's younger and he has the pass rushing potential. I mean, just a couple years ago, he had 15 when Matt Judon had 17, I believe. He was right up there, like top in the league. The other one, Keon White, right? Like, I'm excited to see what Keon White does this year. I don't think he's going to live up to Matt. Like, he's not going to be Matt Judon. That would be best case scenario, but he's going to be stout in the run game, and he's going to be able to provide some bull rushing and some win with speed ability and stuff. So then the Amfrey Jennings signing is a big one too. The re-signing, I should say, is a big one. He provides a little bit of edge value also. Other than that, you're going to have to dig into the well of the NFL draft. You're going to have to be really good at what Bill Belichick was good at. He could consistently find 3rd or 4th round edge rushers that could play on certain downs. And like you mentioned, you're not going to have a 3-down guy like Matt Judon. Maybe Keon White can be that, but you're probably going to have one guy that's really good at stopping the run and can get to the pass rusher a little, and then another pass rush specialist, kind of like what you saw Josh Uche in his first couple of years. You knew he could rush the passer, but he could not play on the edge when it was the 1st or 2nd down, because he couldn't hold his own in the run game. So yeah, it's going to take kind of a village to replace him. But that's how I see it. First thing would be, I would give Josh Uche that extension, because other than Matt Judon and probably Christian Barmore, but just talking about edge defenders, he's the best pass rusher on this team other than Matt Judon is Josh Uche. And then after that, you work at, okay, develop Keon White. Hopefully he shows this year that he can, be in that position. And then you got to find a 3rd or 4th round guy. I wouldn't say if Matt Judon leaves, it would be our most prominent position we'd need to draft. I still would say it would be offensive line number 1. And depending on what happens at receiver, that would be number 2. But edge would immediately shoot up tremendously if Matt Judon isn't on this team. It would probably be the 2nd or 3rd biggest need in the draft come 2025.
Yeah. Shout out to Neil Ray, who says fire show. He also says, please like and sub. Yes, guys, please like this video if you have not already. It massively helps us support us, not just me and Jace individually, but also here at the AFC East Roundtable. Your boy TD, your boy Dan, your boy Richie. It helps support them too when you guys like this video. It helps Roundtable Sports in general grow, because it helps push our videos. It helps push our channel out into the YouTube algorithm. Make sure you guys too also make sure to leave a subscription down to both me and Jace, me at Patriots Global, Jace at Patriots Drive. Those are linked in the description box below. You guys can find our channel, check out our Patriots related content. Make sure you subscribe to both of our channels. What I'll say about the pass rush, to me, the 2 players that I would say have the best chance on roster at replacing Matthew Judon if he does get traded is Keon White and Josh Uche, because Keon White is the type of player who's good at setting the edge. He can play in the interior of the defensive line. He obviously can play at edge. He's very versatile. He's very good at collapsing the pocket. He's very good at getting pressure and very good at getting to the quarterback, to where it wouldn't surprise me. You get rid of Matthew Judon and Keon White leads the entire Patriots defense in pass rushes, right? Like how many what is it? Pressures? He would lead the Patriots in pressures, rather, is what I'm trying to say. And that wouldn't surprise me at all. To the point where I think Keon White would get so many pressures that opposing offenses are going to have to figure out how to stop him, which is going to transition into Keion White starting to get double teamed, things that we even saw at times last year. That is going to open up Josh Uche on the other side, who is a very good pass rusher. He is going to finish it off. The way that I see it, Keion White is kind of this distraction that is going to open up Josh Uche, because we've seen Josh Uche, very good pass rusher. Matthew Judon said it himself, is that Josh Uche is the best pass rusher on the Patriots. We've also seen that Josh Uche can finish plays off. He can get sacks. As we're with Keion White, like I mentioned, he'll collapse a pocket in the snap of a finger. He's going to get pressures. He'll lead your defense in pressures by the end of the season, but he's not going to have a high sack total. The Patriots need to get to the quarterback. They need to figure out who's going to replace Matthew Judon, not just in terms of pressures, but in terms of sacks. And I think that Keion White will be able to be double teamed, triple teamed at times, which will open up Josh Uche on the other side to be able to come in and, put up 10 plus sacks on the season. And that is how you're going to replace Matthew Judon. It's going to take a village. It's not going to be one guy that replaces Judon.
Yeah. And I mean, I just wanted to read this real quick. Going into what I said about Josh Uche and what you just said too. He returned to the Patriots on a 1-year, $3 million contract. It's really up to around $5 million. He turned down a deal that was supposedly 2 years, $15 million from another team. That was $11 million fully guaranteed. So there's other teams out there that know Josh Uche's value. So if you lose Matt Judon, you better be willing to pay a 26. He'll be 26 next offseason. You better be willing to pay Josh Uche probably 3 or 4 years for, I would say, I would go 4 years, $30 million, which is going to get you right around what, $6 or $7 million a year, 7.2, and then give him, maybe half of it fully guaranteed or whatever. So I agree with you. If you lose him, Keion White and Josh Uche on this roster become the two most important edge pieces right there. And that's how you're going to be able to replace him. It's probably not going to be one or the other. I don't think that Keion White is ready to do what Matt Judon does for this team. I also don't think that Josh Uche right now is capable of getting 17 sacks in a year. What he did in 2022, I think is very doable. But, that's with a star pass rusher who's, like you mentioned, top in defensive player of the year voting opposite of you. So you're not getting all the attention. So that's where I agree with you. That's where my two focuses would go to, is those two edge rushers. And because they're still a little bit younger guys and they probably aren't the caliber of Judon, that's why I say you got to go to a second or third round in the draft to be able to have the Patriot, or to be able to replace Matt Judon, because it's not going to be 1 or 2 guys. It's probably going to be 3 or 4 to get his production to where it is right now.
Yeah, I definitely agree. We got one more super chat here again from our boy Richie Fresh, another $2 donation. He says, "Great show, boys. At least May is not in Egypt." So he comes in with some fire, which I completely agree. Talk as much shit as you want on the Patriots and their quarterback and the unknowns. But you know what? At least we have a quarterback of the future, and at least he is at practice and cares about the team and is not in Egypt during mandatory practices. So shout out to you, Richie Fresh, for really sponsoring today's video. If you really think about it, really appreciate you, man. Really appreciate all of the support. It really does go into supporting both me and Jace and everybody here at Roundtable Sports. So we really appreciate you. But guys, that's going to end it for today's live stream. Make sure you subscribe here to the AFC East Roundtable. Make sure you also subscribe to Roundtable Sports. That's all going to be linked in the description box below. Along with, if you want more Patriots-related content, make sure you follow me at Patriots Global. I just dropped a video about the extension on Jahlani Tavai. I also dropped a video about the Matthew Judon situation. So go ahead and check all of that out. Link in the description box below. And of course, check out Jace from the Patriots Drive podcast. That is linked in the description box below too. But Jason, any last thoughts before we log off?
No, appreciate all the support, guys. This is still a new show. This is only our second one. So tell your friends, come back. This is going to be a Friday night thing. Most of the time between 8 or 9 Eastern time is when we'll go live. But if you guys subscribe, hit that notification bell on this channel, you guys will know when we're going live. And then like Colby just mentioned, if you guys want more Patriots specific content and more videos, clips, stuff like that, we both have our individual pages that provide the most up-to-date, best news on the Patriots. So if you guys are just a Patriots fanatic like we are and love talking Patriots ball and stuff like that, make sure you subscribe to all three, the AFC East Roundtable, Patriots Global on YouTube, and then the Patriots Drive podcast. And we really appreciate all you guys' support. Hopefully we see all you guys in here next time, because it's real fun talking Patriots football when we have a lot of Patriots fans in here and, the chat's going crazy and stuff. So really appreciate all the support.
Yeah, man, it's a lot better talking live about the Patriots when we have people commenting and in the discussion rather than, me and Jace just texting, because we already do this on text message. So
yep.
It makes it a lot more fun when there's other people contributing to the discussion. But guys, we will let you know when we're going to be back. We might be back next week, depending what happens. If not, we'll be back the week following to do a training camp kind of, not recap, but a training camp kind of preview before we start getting into it. But other than that, guys, we will keep you updated. Hopefully we'll see you next Friday. If you haven't checked out our last stream, our first stream that we did 2 weeks ago, make sure and check that out. But as always, guys, we appreciate you for watching, and go Pats.